Hey there, everyone. I can actually look you in the eye a little bit. There we go. Because I'm not actively driving. We're at a red light. But as is the case in most of these videos, I'm just going to kind of talk off the top of my head about a couple things that are on my mind. I don't have my usual notes. So usually I scribble down some notes and I stick them in my dashboard in between the panel gaps around the screen so that I can kind of stay on topic, because this is not a very long commute that I have, but I think it's about the right length for what people can tolerate listening to when it isn't fully clickbaity, overproduced YouTube stuff. And as I've mentioned in other places, I am an editor by trade, and so the last thing I want to do when I leave work, like now, is edit anything. So that is why I do these one-take wonders, because I've had, I think, a lot of experience with these cars in different ways, and I've been a car guy my entire life, so I have thoughts and opinions that I think are probably worth sharing. And if you're listening to this or watching this, then you, to some degree or another, must agree. Having said that, clickbait is something I do want to touch on toward the end of the video, but I think before we get there, let's talk about the clickbaity title that I gave it, because apparently this is what works. So this car is 10 years old now. It has, as it sits on the highway here, 127,000 miles and change. And I think it's very important to preface all things, especially after some of the more controversial videos that I've done recently, by saying that I still love this car. And I think this is a fabulous car. I got one that happened to be put together very well, best I can tell. It was early on maybe not repaired very well a few times, but that's a whole nother story. And I don't believe that maybe some of the repairs that have been done since were done perfectly as far as the responsibility side of things go. But overall, I think that these early Model S's get a bad rap because of battery failures or drive unit issues, which there are drive unit issues, and I've done some videos recently actually discussing both of those topics. So you should go back and look at those if you want. Now, I said it had 127,000 miles on it. I think the last update video I did on the car was when it clicked over 100,000 miles, and of course I did one when it went over 50,000 miles and went out of warranty. You can find those on the channel. I will tell you, in the last 27,000 miles, best of my memory, it hasn't required really very much at all. I did rear lower control arms at some point because they broke, which is an issue, and I did have to pay to get the steering linkage fixed, which also should have been a warranty repair. But aside from those things, really hasn't required much other than tires. And it does go through tires because I do enjoy driving it, and I have a heavy foot. Because that's why I bought the car, was so that I could kind of floor it without a whole lot of mechanical sympathy bothering me. Where I floor my other cars, all those thousands of parts go rattling around, and I start to feel bad about it and wonder what kind of fluids I might be overheating and all that. I don't really have that problem with the Model S. So it's 127,000 miles, but they're not gentle miles. Yeah, some of them are just commuting like this, but it's been a little stressful for the car, and I'm pleased overall with how it's held up. Now, having said that, that's a bit of a trope, bit of a meme in the short community, that people always preface every comment about their car with "I love my car, but comma," dot dot dot, or they'll say they'll talk about whatever their problem their car has, and they'll say, "But I still love the car." So I think in light of some of the more recent discussions that we've had here on this blog and in the comments, that it's worth pointing out that I still love this car very, very much. And more importantly, I would say, and to give some further context, I would point out that it has kept up with the times. It's still on the original battery. It's on its second drive unit. The drive unit was replaced early on under warranty, and it is not the U revision, so I suspect I'll have a drive unit issue at some point. There are some bypass kits you can get for to do it yourself, but I need this car to work every day, at least for the next few months, because we have kid home from college, so all three cars that are in the family garage are running pretty much every day. So maybe in the fall I'll have more feedback on that. Maybe that'll be something I'll do. Maybe there'll be a video of it. But I do have some suspension things I got to take care of also. And I do have a broken rear. That door handle over there sticks out, but it doesn't actually open the door. And the rear door handles they're a real pain in the butt to fix because there's just not a lot of access there. So I'll be doing that. I don't think I've done a video on the rear door handle, so I think I did one on a front door handle. So I'll probably see what kind of wisdom I can impart there. But what I started to say is, 10 years worth of thoughts about this car, and of course a couple years researching it before that. And I think it's worth adding the context, again, especially in light of some of the more recent videos, that I come from a military family. My family heritage in this country goes back pre-Revolutionary War, and I'm a very proud patriot American. And I say that not with the context that people try to assign to it, but more in the traditional sense that, this is the best country on earth for so many reasons, but it has a lot of major problems, and we need to address those at some point. And I don't want to get all political, but I know that the use of the flag and the, this is the anniversary of D-Day today when I'm recording this, and it's also just hours after the Starship launch, if you were watching Starship launch. And those are two things that kind of are a nice bookends to what I want to say in regards to where I feel Tesla as a company should be going. And that is that America has always been a place of innovation and of kind of doing the big things that nobody else can do. We're an incredibly rich nation as far as ideas go and resources and talent, and we do not harness that nearly enough. And I think that we get very complacent as a nation about those kinds of things. My gosh, just look at our politicians and ask me how much innovation and new thought you see there. And certainly you don't see anything close to the ideals that used to be talked about as far as statesmanship goes and how learned our earlier politicians used to be. And there's just nothing smart coming out of a lot of politicians nowadays, but that's a whole nother thing. So what does Tesla have to do with that? Well, when I bought this car, I didn't know that the company was going to survive. In fact, there's a fairly decent chance that it wouldn't. That was 2014, and they had just barely gotten these things to the point where they were making them somewhat reliably. And I think that this car in particular was built kind of in that sweet spot of when they were taking a lot of care to make sure that they did things right, because they were trying to expand the company, and they knew that every single sale they made was a conquest sale, but not only that, would likely lead to other conquest sales of other cars. And as a car guy, historically, one of the things that caught my eye was that so many of the initial purchasers of the Model S were people coming out of Porsche 911s. There was a huge amount of Porsche 911 owners who were trading in their 911s to go get Model S's. Now, granted, they were getting P85s typically, or the P85 Plus, for those of you that remember that little submodel. But it doesn't change the fact that that was what was attracting people, and those are the kind of people that were being attracted to it, because it was just a darn good car doing something that was really, really different. And one of the things I liked was that, me and my wife obviously talked about, was we wanted to vote with our dollars that we wanted to see more of this. We wanted to see this kind of thing. An American company doing something extremely bold, building something here that made everybody in its given industry kind of quake and go, crap, we've got to change our plans. We got to match that. We got to keep up with that. And here we are 10 years later, and if I had to replace this car, I still can't think of anything better than this car. Now, I wouldn't probably get a new one because I like my stocks and I like having a shifter, but I would certainly look at a 2019 or something just prior to that. And maybe I could come to peace with it just because a newer one. But that's a whole nother discussion. I think I talked about that in another video. But that's what made Tesla really great in my mind at the time, was that it was just so audacious. It just had so much boldness and swagger and bluster. And it was great that they were confident in doing that because they knew the product was that good. Now, the product is still very good. And in many market segments, it's still the very best option you can come up with if this is what you're looking for. But it's slipping. They're losing the edge, and I think they've kind of gone off in some weird directions, and it hasn't been quite the same since the Model 3 really kind of came into its own. And so that's a whole nother conversation. But that's where my mind is with Tesla nowadays, and I don't think that we're going to get into all this stuff about the CEO, because I already discussed that. I think that it is a car company. That is where the money comes from, and they need to be doing better at building better cars that are more compelling. The Model 3 performance looks amazing. I wish they would have put some stocks on it. That would have made it, really compelling to a lot more people. But whatever, Tesla makes, for every home run they hit, they also hit a single in the bad decision complaints, it seems like. So, speaking of which, there was one on the road with one of my fellow drivers, but whatever, we're gonna let it go. So, what do I want to say about clickbait? That's kind of where I'm going to end this. And the last couple videos I did that were about the CEO pay package, and I got called out on all kinds of crazy things, and you can see some of that in the comments, although I had to delete a huge number of comments because I'm just not going to deal with that kind of negativity, and I really don't care what anybody else has to say about whether they think I have a right to own shares or anything like that, and that includes Elon. You're welcome to buy my shares for $420 each if you can secure your own funding, but that's a whole nother discussion. But what I noticed was on the YouTube side is, my gosh, the engagement and interaction on those two videos was off the charts compared to everything else I've done. And I've put a lot of time and effort into making, some do-it-yourself repair videos and some long-held lessons of owning a Tesla long-term, and kind of some context as to how to keep them on the road and why you should or shouldn't do certain things. And a lot of those took a lot more research and a lot more time to put together, and don't get anywhere near the engagement that the negative ones, especially negative engagement, that those other videos got. And that just tells me that the algorithm for kind of all social media, I think we know, is geared toward enhancing the negativity and for blowing up negativity. And this probably would only get that kind of interaction engagement if I said that having a Tesla over 100,000 miles or over 10 years was a completely stupid thing to do, but it's not. And I love this car still, despite all of that. And I don't know, just a little rant about negativity. But where am I really? Still love the car. You should too. Thanks for watching.